Hello, fellow food lovers. Today I will be making Buddhist Vegetarian Feast, also known as Lohan Jai. It's a very famous Chinese Buddhist dish. You will need 1 medium lotus root bulb, half a cup of bamboo shoots, half a can of baby corn, half a cup of dried wood ear fungus, 1 block of firm tofu, and 2 pieces of dry bean curd stick. For the sauce, you're going to need 1 tablespoon soy sauce, 1 tablespoon vegetarian oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon ginger, 2 cubes of fermented tofu, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. So I got a block of firm tofu. I'm going to cut it into about 10 pieces. So I'll cut it in half and then go in the other direction. I'm going to cut it 4 times. So it's like a little tile basically. So there's 6 ingredients in this version of a Buddhist Vegetarian Feast. So this is bamboo shoots. This is what a stick of bamboo shoot looks like. It looks a bit like a carrot. And I cut it at a diagonal into maybe 6 pieces. So this is what it looks like when I buy it. It's frozen. And it's really convenient when it's frozen because sometimes you may not get fresh bamboo shoots when it's not in season. But if it's frozen, you can get it anytime. Yeah, so I cut out a diagonal just like that. So that's about half a cup of bamboo shoot. And that's dried bean curd stick. You have to soak that overnight in water. This is what it looks like when you buy it. It's dried. And yeah, so you have to soak it about 24 hours in water and then it softens and you can use it. So this is 1 bean curd stick. It's like 2 pieces connected at a joint. So you soak it overnight until it rehydrates and then you cut it into like 1-inch pieces. And this is wood ear fungus. When you buy it, it's dried. It looks like that when it's dry. So you have to soak that in water overnight as well. So it's best to soak it 24 hours. And there it is. And sometimes it has like a hard bit in the middle. You should cut that out. But sometimes it's good. You don't need to cut it out. And generally people cut it out just to make it easier to eat. It's not harmful at all. If you leave it in, that hard bit, it won't hurt you. Okay, I have 1 piece of lotus root. That's 1 bulb. So you need to peel that. So you need to use a vegetable peeler to take the peel off. And then you cut the ends off. And usually I just slice it into little discs. Okay, so both ends get cut off. And then I cut into slices. So you don't have to cook it very long. If you cook it a little on the raw side, it has a nice crunch to it. If you like it nice and soft, you can boil it a long time as well to cook it. And then I'm going to be using half a can of baby corn. So I got a little knob of ginger. It's going to flavor the sauce. So I'm cutting the ginger into julienne, very fine julienne. And for this Buddhist vegetarian dish, for the sauce, you also need something called fermented bean curd or fermented tofu. It comes in a jar and it comes in little cubes. So you need 2 cubes to make the sauce. So that's 1 cube right there. It's very strong tasting. It almost tastes like cheese, some people say. But it gives a nice pungent flavor to the sauce. So I took 2 cubes out. I'm gonna add a little bit of water just so I can mix into a sauce. So I kind of mash it up and mix in with the water, and that's gonna make part of the sauce. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna deep fry the tofu. Usually in this dish, the tofu is deep fried. So the way I usually test the oil is I'll take a wooden chopstick and I'll dip it in the oil, and if bubbles come off it, then it's hot enough. Okay, so I'm sliding the tofu in 1 piece at a time. So notice I slide it along the side of the wok. I don't drop it from overhead, otherwise it'll splash and possibly burn you. So you want to let it fry for maybe 2-3 minutes, and then turn it over so the other side gets a chance to brown as well. So once the tofu is kind of golden brown and has a little bit of a hard crust to it, then it's done. You don't want tofu that's too soft. It should have a nice bite to it when it's deep fried. So yeah, you want to move the tofu around so it doesn't stick to each other. Okay, so you want to turn the tofu over so that both sides are browned. Then when it's done, I have a plate behind the wok with some paper towel on that, so it's going to drain the oil when I place the tofu on there. As you can tell, the tofu's got a nice brown color to it now. So I'll recycle the oil. I have an oil container that I keep on top of the stove. And so I'll drain the oil through a sieve, and I recycle it for when I have to deep fry again in the wok. Okay, so I washed the wok. I filled it about half full with water, and I brought it to a boil. So I'm putting 4 of the ingredients in there now. So I'm putting the wood ear fungus in, the dried bean curd sticks that's been rehydrated, the lotus root, and the bamboo shoots. So I'm going to boil those veggies for 20 to 30 minutes on a hard boil, just to cook it. And towards the end, you can put the half can of baby corn in there. It just needs to warm up. You don't need to cook the baby corn. It's edible. You can eat it straight out of the can, basically. So just put it near the end, and once it's kind of warmed up, you can take everything out. So I use a slotted spoon, so I make sure that there's not a lot of water that gets transferred over. Okay, so I'm gonna empty the water from the wok. I'm gonna wash the wok, and I'm gonna make the cornstarch slurry. So I'm gonna put a heaping tablespoon of cornstarch into a bowl. So make sure you have a heaping tablespoon this time around. And then I'm gonna add a quarter cup of cold water to that. I'm gonna stir it. Make sure it's all dissolved. I'm going to make the sauce now. Okay, I have the wok on high heat. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil to that. I'm going to add the ginger. Give that a stir, and you only have to fry the ginger for 30 seconds. It's just to infuse the oil with the ginger flavor. I'm going to add 1 cup of water to that. I'm going to add the mashed, preserved, or the fermented tofu cubes. And I'm going to add some sauces to that. So it's coming up to a boil now. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of the vegetarian oyster sauce. One teaspoon of sesame oil. And I'm going to thicken it with that cornstarch slurry. And again, for the amount of liquid that I put in there, you want to make sure that you're using at least a heaping tablespoon, maybe even 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to make the sauce. Okay, have that come to a boil, and then you're going to add the veggies in there. So I drained the veggies a second time over the sink, because when you take it out of the boiling water, it's going to have some water transfer over, and you want it to be on the dry side so it doesn't dilute the sauce. So yeah, it was fairly dry before I put it into the sauce. So I'm going to stir the veggies now, make sure it's well coated in the sauce. And I just added the tofu. So I'm going to give it a stir again, make sure the tofu is well mixed in with the veggies. So this is a dish that's very popular with Buddhist Chinese people and with Chinese vegetarians. It has a bit of everything going on in it. A bunch of different veggies, and different people do it different ways. You can start with 4 or 5 veggies to up to 18. They say that really fancy Buddhist vegetarian feast recipes have like 18 different ingredients. But this one with the 6 ingredients is actually pretty good too. So some other ingredients that they might have would be glass noodles, gingko nuts, wheat gluten, straw mushrooms. It could have a bunch of different stuff. Shitaki mushrooms, sui choy or napa cabbage is another common one. So yeah, generally with this dish, you want at least one kind of vegetarian protein like tofu or wheat gluten, some kind of fungus, and some veggies. So there you have it. That's Chinese Buddhist Vegetarian Feast. A very famous Chinese vegetarian dish. There you go. Okay, bon appetit.
Thank you.